Part 27. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 261. This time, no one picked up food for Suliang, no one wanted to eat Suliang secretly, and no one even talked to Suliang. He was the only one who felt neglected. But even so, Suliang didn't feel any discomfort. Are you kidding me? This situation is already pretty good, isn't it? It's much better than the last dinner party, where someone might attack me at any time. Suliang said he was very satisfied. And when the dinner is about to end, Qin Benjiao suddenly turned to look at her sister and asked doubtfully, by the way, Sister Ying, what's the matter with you coming here today? Hearing this, Ying Kaoj immediately recalled the restless gap in the abyss, sighed, a look of worry appeared on his face, and unconsciously put down his chopsticks, no longer in the mood to eat. Seeing her like this, several other people, even Suliang, were concerned and asked worriedly. To be able to make the empress of a country look so worried, maybe something serious has really happened, right? Hearing everyone's worried questions and feeling their thoughts, Ying Kaoj felt warm in his heart and forced a smile. Sisters, don't worry, I'm fine. It's just that, the abyss gap has been restless recently, and there have been frequent commotions, but I can't find out the root cause of it. Therefore, I am a little worried, for fear that the abyss gap will suddenly erupt. If this is the case, I, Daxia, may not be able to stop it. After hearing this, everyone present frowned. As immortal cultivators, they naturally know the gap between the abyss. Therefore, it is natural to understand what a terrifying existence there is. Just as Ying Kaoj said, if the abyss gap breaks out, it is impossible for a mere Daxia to stop it. However, the gap in the abyss has obviously been quiet for a long time. Although there is occasional movement, it is normal. Why is it suddenly restless again now? After thinking for a moment, Suliang raised his head and said, Master, Sister, Benjiao, Kaoj, Wanyu, this matter is not trivial, but there seems to be a lot of secrets involved. It is important, but we have no clue. In that case, how about we go take a look and find out the truth? Hearing this, the girls looked at each other and nodded, okay. Next to the gap in the abyss. Because of the constant restlessness in the abyss, the general guarding here simply transferred all his men here to monitor it day and night. The general naturally knew that if there was any change in the gap between the abyss, they would be the first to bear the brunt, but there was no way to resist it. But, at least, they can always buy Daxia some time to react. It's not like they don't know anything about it when the enemies have knocked on the door. And on this day, the soldiers guarding here are conducting routine inspections as usual. The soldiers were all fully armed and extremely well equipped. When they walked, their armors made a scraping sound, and the steel knives in their hands shone with a cold light. Just one look at them made people feel cold all over their bodies. And the soldiers wearing these sophisticated equipment are also the most elite beings in Daxia. These people's eyes are extremely sharp, their expressions are cold and hard, and their bodies are full of blood. You can tell at a glance that they are all soldiers of hundreds of battles. And just then, the gap in the abyss, where the demonic energy soaring to the sky was usually gushing out, suddenly condensed. Next, after brewing for a moment, the terrifying demonic energy that seemed to be swallowing up the entire world suddenly spewed out from the gap in the abyss, covering the sky and the sun. At the same time, countless demons roared, stampeded, and rushed out from the gap in the abyss. In an instant, they turned into a tide, surging like a sky-high wave, and suddenly shot down everything around them. See this? The general who was guarding here suddenly shrank his pupils, and shouted in an extremely shrill voice, the evil demon appears in the world, and the gap in the abyss breaks out to meet the enemy. At this moment, an unprecedented crisis is erupting. But now that things have come to this, there is no need for him to say these words. The moment the gap between the abyss erupted, a group of soldiers guarding here were already ready to face the enemy. The moment the evil demon appeared, these soldiers rushed forward desperately. Even if the demons are monstrous, no matter the quantity or quality, they cannot deal with them, but so what? Since the guards are here, they have already prepared to face the situation and fight the evil here to the end. This is not only for themselves, but also for the countless people in the Great Summer behind them, and also for their own families in the Great Summer. Then, in front of the wave of demons, these guarding soldiers rushed past like a rushing stream. In an instant, they rushed into the demons and were swallowed by the demons. They fought hard to fight with each other, no longer distinguishing between you and me. This battle was extremely brutal. In just an instant, countless soldiers died, and countless more soldiers filled the vacancies. Volume 1 #Picture 240 The Queen of the Abyss seems to be an old friend, in front of the Tauren. Even if they were hit several times, even if the weapons in their hands had shattered, they still did not retreat and continued to fight hard until the end of their lives. Seeing this scene, the general guarding here was already filled with enthusiasm. And that's when Suliang and others happened to arrive at the top of the gap in the abyss. When they saw this scene, their expressions changed. "Hurry up and help!" He shouted angrily without hesitation, and then the long sword appeared in his hand, and Suliang rushed forward to kill him. As Suliang gave the order and rushed out quickly, Qin Binjao and others did not dare to hesitate and immediately followed Suliang and rushed forward. Although there was no communication between the girls, they seemed to have a perfect tacit understanding at this time, and there was no hesitation in their cooperation. Almost instantly, the girls exchanged glances with each other, and they determined what would happen next. Action. Immediately afterwards, among the girls, Wan Qing and Tan Qinjia, who had the strongest cultivation skills, followed Suliang closely and started to kill the evil spirits with all their strength. Qin Binjao and Ying Kaoj stood in mid-air, overlooking the chaotic battlefield below, trying their best to find every soldier and rescue them intact. Among the girls, Qin Wanyu, who showed the weakest cultivation ability, was standing outside the battlefield, staring closely at the demons who had broken through the defense line and wanted to break into Daxia. This task seems to be very simple. After all, with the desperate fighting of these guards and the actions of Suliang and others, there are not many evil spirits who can break out from the crowd. But the total number of demons is really too big. With such a huge base, this is not many, but it is still difficult to deal with. But fortunately, although Qin Wanyu's strength was not strong, she could only deal with some evil spirits. Then, with the division of labor and cooperation among the girls, Suliang, the evil spirit, became much less powerful in an instant. Among them, the one who seems to have contributed the most is Suliang. I saw. Suliang, who had obtained the complete overlord body, had already separated himself far away from the girls with one sword and one man. He stood alone in front of the waves of evil spirits. It seemed like a mantis was using its arms as a chariot. If others acted like this, they would only let Suliang people feel ridiculous. But looking at Suliang now, no one could laugh out loud. Standing in mid-air, Suliang's powerful and domineering aura that looked down on the world and was invincible was released from him without reservation, covering everyone present. In just an instant, the soldiers felt as if they were facing an eternal and domineering king, and almost fell to their knees. A mere evil spirit dares to attack. Suliang's voice was calm and he spoke indifferently, but no one could ignore the domineering and confident tone in his voice. Immediately afterwards, Suliang put one hand on the handle of the knife. Kang lang lang. The sound of the sword being unsheathed sounded, and the shocking sword energy seemed to have been sealed and suppressed by the scabbard before. At this moment, it shot straight into the sky, and even the clouds floating freely in the sky were cut into two by the sword's intention. Half. A shadow in the shape of a long sword appeared faintly in the sky, standing above Suliang's head. The tip of the sword pointed directly at the sky, as if to declare war on the sky. This moment, feeling the extremely domineering feeling crushing on his body, and the sharp sword intention like cutting with a blade. Whether it was the evil demon or the Daxia soldiers, they all stopped their movements and just looked at Suliang blankly, with shock and fear in their eyes. At this moment, everything in the world seems to have lost its color. Only the domineering king stands between heaven and earth, slaying evil spirits with his sword and holding the world in his hands. One sword, no regrets. A soft groan came from Suliang's mouth. Although the sound was not loud, it suddenly resounded in everyone's ears. Everyone was startled, as if they were infected by the sword intention, and their blood boiled. Next. Bass. A crisp sword cry suddenly sounded. Suliang raised his long sword backwards, with the blade next to his face. After brewing for a moment, he slashed out with one sword. Moment. A ferocious sword light was slashed out by Suliang. The sword light was bright and dazzling. It carried a sharp meaning, but the sword had no regrets and seemed to tear the earth apart. Wherever it passed, a piece of messy. The evil demon on the path, under the brilliance of this sword, had no ability to resist, and was turned into powder in an instant. The sword light moved forward, and in just the blink of an eye, it killed tens of thousands of evil spirits, and then the brilliance dissipated and disappeared. At this moment, when everyone present looked at the traces of the sword light crushing past, the next moment they all looked horrified and shocked. I saw. Wherever the sword light crisscrosses, the earth is cracked, and ravines are spread all over it, most of which are bottomless. What's more, there is gurgling clear water flowing out of them, washing away the dirt. And the evil spirits that were there were just like being erased with an eraser, disappearing completely and never being found again. The remaining evil spirits who survived were all trembling with fear under Suliang's sword and no longer dared to make any move. Gilug. After swallowing hard, everyone looked at Suliang with eyes filled with admiration and admiration. One sword can kill thousands of evil spirits, scare them away from taking action, and turn the tide. At this moment, Suliang, the overlord, is nothing more than this. Sheathing the sword, Suliang turned back to his girlfriend and others, with a relieved smile on his face. The remaining evil spirits don't dare to act arbitrarily anymore. They will retreat soon. This matter should be over. Hearing this, and looking at the terrifying effect of Suliang's sword, Qin Binjao laughed, threw herself into her boyfriend's arms, hugged her boyfriend, and said with admiration, Suliang is indeed the most powerful. Tan Qinja, Wan Qing, Ying Kaoch, and Qin Wanyu, who were not far away, all breathed a sigh of relief when they saw the scene and moved closer to Suliang's direction. But right now, ta, ta, ta. A series of crisp footsteps sounded, and a silhouette walked out of the gap in the abyss. Where the silhouette passed, a group of demons, like well-behaved kittens, knelt down and bowed their heads in extremely respectful manner. Qianying appeared with a crisp sound. The sound was heard in everyone's hearts, but it was like a hammer constantly hitting the heart, making people unable to help showing a look of pain. Sensing something strange, Suliang turned back instantly and looked at the beautiful figure as if he was facing a formidable enemy. However, before Suliang's shout could come out, his expression became dull. I saw. The face of this beautiful figure is extremely charming and gorgeous. She is tall and slender, but also has plump beauty. She is extremely proud and has perfect proportions. A pair of proud peaks stand erect, with such a scale that even Wan Qing would envy them. Further down, there is an extremely slender waist, which is full and beautiful when held in hand. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 262. A piece of clothing that was not considered clothing extended from behind her, only covering the pair of proud peaks, but there was not even an inch above and below the proud peaks. On the lower body, a strap-like triangle restrains a pair of slender but plump legs. Further down, the round feet are wrapped in high-heeled boots, which looks full of beauty. Judging from the appearance, the attire of this beautiful figure is very bold. Even Suliang has almost never seen this kind of attire in reality. But what is more eye-catching is the difference between Qianying and ordinary people. I saw on the small head of this beautiful figure with a beautiful face, a pair of long horns that curve backwards are growing on it, which looks so abrupt but natural. In addition, behind the beautiful figure, there is a small heart-shaped tail at the top, which instantly makes this stunning figure full of charm. It easily reminded Suliang of a creature from hell that he saw in his original world. That's called, what kind of devil is this? Suliang could not have imagined that in front of him, this beautiful figure who came out of the gap in the abyss and had the same image of existence as he had seen in his previous life, was actually the real Queen of the Abyss. The Queen of the Abyss slowly walked out of the gap in the abyss and stopped in front of everyone. She held her hands in front of her chest, but put a delicate hand beside her face, looking at the world with a lazy look. This lazy posture, coupled with her extremely charming and gorgeous appearance, the horns on her head, the tail behind her, and her extremely bold outfit. At this moment, she looked truly stunning in the world. Every frown, every smile, every move, was filled with natural charm, which could make people spurt blood to death. No one could match her. But the Queen of the Abyss is indeed the Queen of the Abyss. What is hidden under such stunning charm is her queenly coercion. As the queen who rules the clan, even if she is just standing there, the Queen of the Abyss has an almost suffocating coercion coming out of her. She is like a fairy in the sky, overlooking the world from above, holding the palm of her hand over the world. Oh, I haven't been here in this world for a long time. Taking a deep breath of the human world, the Queen of the Abyss immediately showed a faint look of disgust, greed, lies, expectations. Tisk, it is said to be the human world, but this place is more like an abyss than an abyss. In such a world, it is better to go directly, just let it go. While muttering softly to herself, the Queen of the Abyss looked around. Next moment, as if she felt something in her heart, the Queen of the Abyss turned her head to look in the direction of Suliang, and met Suliang's eyes. Next, there was a hint of surprise in the eyes of the Queen of the Abyss. Her calm, majestic, yet extremely charming feeling disappeared in an instant, and was replaced by a strong feeling of disbelief. Why are you here? And just at this moment, Suliang, who was targeted by the Queen of the Abyss, immediately felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. It was as if the whole world was repelling and squeezing him. At this moment, Suliang felt the difficulty of breathing that he had never experienced before. It was as if the whole world had come down and crushed him, making him almost unable to stand upright. Get up! But in the face of such extremely powerful oppression, Suliang had no intention of giving in at all. He still gritted his teeth. Even if blood was seeping out, he would stand tall and stand proudly in the world. Not even the dog system can make me surrender. How can this mere world be worthy of letting me, Suliang, bend? But right now, the Queen of the Abyss suddenly disappeared, and then she approached Suliang and stared at Suliang's face seriously. The moment this stunning and charming face appeared in front of him, Suliang was startled and subconsciously took 2 steps back. Then, the long sword appeared in his hand and he was about to fight the Queen of the Abyss. Being able to make himself almost unbearable through oppression alone, Suliang naturally knew that the enemy in front of him was much stronger than him, and he would never be able to win. But so what? Even if I am destined to die, I, Suliang, will stand till the end of my strength and will never live an ignoble existence or die a useless person. But what Suliang didn't expect was, before he can take action, the Queen of the Abyss took a step forward again, spread her arms, and hugged Suliang tightly. How is this going? Suliang was startled, and felt that his whole person was confused. The enemy appeared, but he didn't fight him, but just hugged him? Isn't this too weird? She looked at Suliang with eyes full of nostalgia and didn't look away for a long time. After a long time, a smile appeared on the Queen of the Abyss face. Finally, I've waited for you. But she turned her head suddenly and saw Qin Benjao running towards her at a glance. Snort. With a slight snort, the Queen of the Abyss frowned and said dissatisfied, "You are just an ant, and you dare to disturb my reunion with him? You are looking for death. Say it." The Queen of the Abyss took action boldly, and her attack was a killing move. It seemed that she was going to kill Qin Benjao unreasonably. And at this critical moment, Wan Qing, who had been far away before, suddenly appeared in front of Qin Benjao. After taking the killing move of the Queen of the Abyss with her hand, she stepped forward again and actually took the initiative to engage in a confrontation with the extremely terrifying Queen of the Abyss. "Let him go!" Wan Qing shouted angrily, while attacking the Queen of the Abyss with all her strength, hoping to distract her and take the opportunity to rescue Suliang, but at the same time, she was wary of the Queen of the Abyss's movements. "You want me to let him go? You're not worthy yet." The Queen of the Abyss shook her head, and also took action brazenly. In an instant, two unrivaled powerhouses started fighting here. All of a sudden, it seemed that the color of the sky and the earth changed, the mountains and rivers shook, and the aftermath of the fight between the two directly changed the original appearance of the earth, causing the rivers to change their courses, the mountains to tremble, the earth to crack, and huge bottomless cracks to appear in front of everyone. However, after a fight, the two were evenly matched. Wan Qing found that she was unable to do anything to the Queen of the Abyss, and was even at a disadvantage several times. Especially in the abyss field created by the Queen of the Abyss, the Queen of the Abyss is even stronger. She has suppressed Wan Qing many times, making Wan Qing depressed. This woman is obviously holding the master in her arms while fighting, and she is always distracted to protect the master. How can she still be so strong? While crossing their hands, Wan Qing was thinking, but she couldn't figure it out at all. But while the battle was in full swing, even the Queen of the Abyss had begun to crush Wan Qing. The Queen of the Abyss suddenly frowned, then slapped Wan Qing away with a palm, and she also retreated a lot. Volume 1 Chapter 241, The Fatal Brand, The Pampering of the Cold and Proud Taoist Master. Constrained by the laws of heaven and earth, she cannot stay in this world for long. At this moment, she has not been in this world for long, and it is already time to leave. Well. With a sigh, the Queen of the Abyss looked at Suliang full of resentment. In addition to the charm, the resentment in her voice was barely concealed. "I have been waiting for you for so long, but not only have you forgotten me, there are others around you. Woman." Ahem. Suliang coughed lightly and smiled awkwardly. "I think this is all a misunderstanding." Misunderstand? The Queen of the Abyss smiled bitterly, and without saying much, she lowered her head and bit Suliang's neck. At this moment, Suliang felt a tingling sensation in her neck, as if something was left here with her mouth full. Opening her mouth and letting go of Suliang, the Queen of the Abyss reminded her very seriously, "If you still can't remember me next time we meet, just wait to die." Say it. The Queen of the Abyss actually took a step forward, and in front of Suliang's girlfriends, she pressed her pink lips directly on Suliang's lips and kissed Suliang forcefully. This moment, not only Suliang, but also Qin Benjao and other girls were all confused. Are you being treated like a Tauren in front of others? For a moment, all the girls felt that their shoulders were a little heavier, as if something was pressing on their heads. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing, who had just lost the battle with the Queen of the Abyss, suddenly jumped to her feet, pointed at the Queen of the Abyss and cursed, "You little watch, let me go. That's mine, mine, let me go. At this moment, she was really furious at the Queen of the Abyss behavior in front of the Minotaur. But Qin Benjao on the side blinked, feeling nothing. I always feel like I have become accustomed to this scene. Is it Master, Sister Wanking, Queen Mother, or Sister Ying? Thinking in his heart, Qin Benjao has a cute face and is extremely cute. The Queen of the Abyss left, and all the remaining demons from the Abyss left behind, following the Queen of the Abyss. Then, this shocking battle ended here. But the whole thing felt extremely confusing from beginning to end. The abyssal demon suddenly appeared, and then a mysterious and extremely powerful woman appeared. The woman looked like she wanted to destroy the world, but in the end, she hugged Suliang, kissed Suliang forcefully, and left. Looking at it this way, whether that woman appears or leaves, the reasons are all mysterious, which is really unpredictable. But at this moment, Qin Benjao and others simply couldn't care less about who the woman was, why she came, and why she left. They clearly remembered that before the woman left, she seemed to have left something on her man and was still threatening her man. The girls hurriedly stepped forward, surrounded Suliang, and said with half worry and half concern, "Lang Jun, how are you? Are you not injured?" After saying that, regardless of other people's eyes, the girls all reached out and touched Suliang's body, trying to judge whether Suliang was injured. At this time, Wan Qing suddenly pulled away the girls and said, "That woman's cultivation is too advanced. Even if she left a wound on Suliang, you wouldn't be able to detect it. Leave it to me, I'll just check it out." "Say it." Wan Qing first opened the clothes between Suliang's neck and examined the brand on his neck. "I saw. The shape of the brand is very blurry, as if it is obscured by something, making it difficult to see clearly. Among them, there is a mysterious power flowing, exuding an extremely mysterious aura." After feeling the effect of this brand, Wan Qing's face darkened slightly. This brand actually stimulates Suliang's potential all the time. As a result, Suliang became stronger much faster, but precisely because of this, all the potential in his body was squeezed and overdrawn, and Suliang's lifespan was compressed to the limit. According to Wanking's observations and estimates, in 3 months at most, Suliang would die suddenly because of this mark. He told the girls everything he knew. In an instant, Qin Benjao and others were all anxious. "Sister Wanking, please save Suliang." Qin Benjao was about to cry, pulling on Wan Qing's sleeves, looking anxious. Tan Kinja on the side also bit her red lips and begged, "Auntie, I know you can definitely save Liang, just save him. No matter what, I will give Liang to you in the future, and everything will be at your discretion, I will never make you angry again." Even Yang Kaoj and Qin Wanyu looked at Wan Qing with pleading eyes. Looking at this, they were willing to abandon everything if Wan Qing could save Suliang. However, facing the pleading eyes, Wan Qing shook her head and said, "It's useless for you to beg me. Even though I didn't try it just now, I can't touch the mark at all, let alone lift it." As she spoke, Wan Qing was filled with doubts. Her mind holds memories of thousands of years, and her cultivation cannot be viewed with common sense. But even so, she has never heard of the existence of this woman, and cannot break the methods she left behind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 263. Could it be? Is she an existence older than myself? Could it be? Does her existence really transcend 1,000 years of time? At this moment, Suliang, who was surrounded by the girls and constantly checking, was also puzzled. The Queen of the Abyss looked at him with affection, and it was impossible for Suliang not to see the emotion that had penetrated deep into his bones. But Suliang has indeed never had contact with that woman, and even in the Sims, there seems to be no trace of such a woman. If this is the case, then why is the woman so special to herself? And since she likes herself, why would she put such a mark on herself? Rubbing his brows and thinking, for a moment, Suliang felt that there were so many doubts that it was difficult to distinguish. And this time, it's time for the universal dog system to appear. Then, Suliang asked in his mind, "System, what happened to that woman just now? A bindable character has been detected, but the simulation cannot be bound due to insufficient host permissions." Suliang was really stunned when he heard the system's words. Sure enough, the woman just now is also a binding candidate with simulation qualifications. Only because I don't have enough permissions at this time, I can't bind the simulation. With a sigh, Suliang was quite speechless. Co-author, I met her too early. If I had waited 2 more years and had higher authority before meeting her, the situation would not be the same now. And while Suliang was thinking about everything about the Queen of the Abyss, the girls on the side were also constantly discussing how to solve the hidden dangers in Suliang. After thinking for a moment, Wan Qing said, "There are many ancient books and powerful formations in Fukang Dao section. Those things may be able to help Suliang. Why not? Let me take Suliang back to Fukang Dao sect, investigate the brand on Suliang's body and the secrets of the abyss, and then check the ancient books in the sect to see if I can remove the brand on Suliang's body." How? The girls looked at each other, and for a while, they all felt that Wan Qing's method was good, so they nodded and agreed. "See this?" Wan Qing said immediately, "It's not too late, I'll take Suliang back right away." "Sister Wanqing, Aunt, I want to go too." Qin Benjao and Tan Kinja suddenly stood up and wanted to go to Fukang Dao sect with their men. However, Wan Qing shook her head, "Daxia has just been attacked by an evil spirit. You still need to stay and help. Besides, I will be back soon, so there is no need for you to follow me." Hearing this, the 2 women let out a somewhat disappointed expression, and then they all threw themselves into the arms of their men, hugging their men and saying goodbye reluctantly. "Suliang, you must be well and come back soon, people will miss you." Qin Benjao hugged her man tightly and cried, "Ailiang, sister will always be here waiting for you. If you can't come back, then no matter where you are, sister will go to accompany you." Tan Kinja also hugged Suliang tightly, and her tone was full of firmness that could not be rejected. Shaking his head and smiling bitterly, Suliang comforted his girlfriend and sister, and then followed his master to Fukang Dao sect. Just on the road ahead of Fukang Dao sect, Wan Qing was flying with Suliang's sword, but she was extremely anxious and wanted to reach Fukang Dao sect immediately. Even though she has turned the flying speed of Yujian to the maximum, the speed is still accelerating, accelerating, accelerating. Even at the risk of the sword shattering and overdrawing her true energy, Wan Qing still stubbornly accelerated. Looking ahead with a solemn expression, Wan Qing was extremely worried about Suliang's condition. Seeing his master like this, Suliang hugged his waist from behind and comforted him softly, "Master, don't worry, I still have 3 months, and I'm not in a hurry to overdraw for my sake. True Yuan, it's not worth it." His voice was as gentle and generous as ever, and he didn't sound worried about himself at all. But he is not worried, but Wan Qing is worried. "My teacher said it was 3 months, but that's only the best case scenario." Wan Qing frowned slightly and looked at Suliang worriedly, "I haven't fully analyzed that brand yet. Who knows if it has any other effects? If this brand suddenly breaks out, even I can't do anything about it. Bring you back." After hearing this, Suliang still shook his head. It seemed that he cared more about Wan Qing than himself. "There's no need to be so anxious. I'm already like this now. Life or death is all determined by fate. Decisive, I feel that this wave of destiny is mine, so there will definitely be no problem. Master, you should pay more attention to yourself. If Master continues to overdraw his true energy and advance like this, I am afraid that Master will fall when he reaches Fukang Dao section. By then, how will Master look for and save me? Method. Suliang's words were so sincere that even Wanqing was a little shaken. Really? She is currently overdrawing her true energy to move forward, so her speed is ridiculously fast. By doing this, she may be able to return to Fukang Dao sect much faster, but correspondingly, her body will not be able to support it by then. She was not worried that her potential would be damaged because of this. As long as she could save Suliang, from Wanqing's point of view, it would be okay even if she died. But if she was too weak to move because she had overdrawn her true energy, and delayed finding out how to cure her master, Wanqing would never be able to forgive herself. After thinking about this, Wanqing sighed and really slowed down the flying speed of Yujian a lot. At least, it has returned to normal levels. After giving Suliang a rather resentful look, Wanqing sighed. Master is good at everything, but he is too talkative. It was his character that led to the outcome that day. Such a master really fascinated her, but when she thought about the outcome of that day, Wanqing wished that her master would be tougher and more cold-blooded. If that is the case, maybe, things won't turn out like this. But even with this thought in her mind, Wanqing relaxed unconsciously. After advancing for a while, feeling the heavier and heavier weight behind her, Wanqing stopped flying her sword, landed on the ground, and said to Suliang, "Forget it, since we are not in such a hurry, why not take a rest?" "Good." Suliang nodded, with a rare tired look on his face. He felt that his body was extremely heavy now, his eyelids were equally heavy and he could hardly open them, and his whole body was exhausted to the extreme. After finding a place to sit down, Wanqing noticed Suliang's tiredness. She bit her red lips lightly and without much hesitation, she closed her legs and turned her slender legs to her side. Immediately. Then he pulled Suliang to sit on him, and the next moment, he pressed Suliang's head on his lap and directly provided Suliang with a set of knee pillow services. "Sleep, sleep, Master is here, you don't have to be afraid of anything." While stroking Suliang's hair, Wanqing spoke softly. "Well." Suliang muttered something in response, and carefully felt the soft but tight, smooth touch under his head, with the unique smoothness of silk stockings. What lingered on the tip of his nose was the faint fragrance of his master. After rubbing his master's beautiful black stocking legs, Suliang closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. When he faced the demon before, that sword actually did not consume Suliang too much. But then, when he faced the Queen of the Abyss head-on, the pressure, majesty, and momentum of the Queen of the Abyss that far exceeded ordinary people were really difficult to resist. While resisting the pressure that even the immortal realm may not be able to withstand, while thinking nervously about all the doubts, Suliang was already exhausted and drained of energy. Both physically and mentally, he was exhausted to the extreme. Caressing Suliang's face, watching Suliang fall into a deep sleep due to fatigue, Wanqing bit her lips tightly, her face and heart full of pity for Suliang. Fukang Dao sect. After traveling quickly all the way, Suliang and Wanqing finally arrived here not long after. The flying sword stayed in the sky above Fukang Dao section looking at the many majestic buildings below. Wanqing showed a smile to Suliang, "Look, this is Fukang Dao section." After hearing this, Suliang glanced down and almost gasped. Seen from the sky, the entire Fukang Dao sect occupies a huge area, with many pavilions and palaces lined up in rows. It looks majestic, and there is a faint fairy aura rippling out of it. One thing to say, this place seems to be much more powerful than the Dao sect back home. Sure enough, he is worthy of being called the Supreme Section. And at the same time, Wanqing's unique aura has already alarmed the senior officials of Fukang Dao sect. As the Taoist master of Fuzang Tao sect, Wanqing has been away for several months. Of course, This is not the first time that these senior Fukang Tao sect leaders have experienced this situation, and they have no feelings for Wanqing. What to worry about? But after all, Wanqing is the Taoist master. As elders and deacons, they naturally have to come out to greet the Taoist master when he returns. Then, one by one, they all put down what they were doing and walked out, planning to welcome the Taoist master back. But when they looked up at the sky where the Taoist master existed, before they had time to salute to greet the Taoist master, they noticed Suliang behind Wanqing. Moment. The senior officials of Fukang Dao sect were all shocked. Who is the young man following the Taoist master? Looking at him like that, following closely beside the Taoist master, and being held tightly by the Taoist master's hand, he looked very intimate. It seems that the relationship between Taoist masters is definitely extraordinary. Is he a disciple of the Taoist master, a junior, or Taoist man? Staring at Suliang's figure in the sky with wide eyes and shock on their faces, the senior officials of Fukang Dao sect made various speculations about the relationship between the two. And just then, Wanqing brought Suliang to the ground, pulled Suliang over, held Suliang in her arms, with a happy and doting smile on her face, and introduced, "This is Suliang, the door for me. Disciple." His. After hearing this, all the senior officials of Fukang Dao sect took a breath and were shocked again. Turns out, he is the Taoist master's close disciple. To be favored by the Taoist master, this young man has so much potential and understanding. And everyone looked at Wanqing and Suliang's intimate appearance and were all shocked to the point of an uproar. In their impression, the former Wanqing was extremely cold and arrogant, and looked aloof to everyone, even the registered disciple, and the super geniuses who had become Dao disciples, Mob and Xian, were no exception. Not to mention that Wanqing was cold and arrogant towards senior officials like them. She didn't bother to pay attention to anyone or get close to them. No matter how high her status was, Wanqing could directly say unpleasant things to them. For those who could speak 2 words, Wanqing would say at most 1 word to them. For those who could speak 1 word, Wanqing would simply stop talking. But now, seeing her hugging her disciple, speaking softly, with a doting look on her face, she was actually so close to her disciple. Is this still our cold, arrogant, and noble Taoist master? This young man could actually make the Taoist master look like this. It was really terrifying. After dispersing all the senior officials of Fukang Dao sect, Wanqing took Suliang around Fukang Dao section. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 264. Soon. Volume 1 Chapter 242, delaying the deadline for killing someone, Wanqing takes the initiative. Then they came to a secret place of Fukang Dao sect. Pushing open the ancient bronze door of the first-floor tower, Wanqing led Suliang into it. The ancient bronze door was immediately closed, and the entire tower was filled with darkness, making it impossible to see even one's fingers. But the next moment, the lights surrounding the tower suddenly lit up. The flames were not big, but extremely bright. In an instant, everything in the tower was illuminated. The firelight circled the tower wall layer by layer and went straight to the top. Suliangzi looked up and saw that in the nearly 10-meter high tower, there was only the bottom layer, which was connected up and down. It's very spacious when you go up. In order to hide something, you actually built this high tower? This Fukang Dao sect is really generous. Suliang thought with emotion. Pushing Suliang to the center of the ancient pagoda, Wanqing pointed to all the arrangements around Suliang and said, "Here is the Fuling formation unique to our Fukang Dao section. When the formation is activated, it will cut off all spiritual connections in the person inside, and even all the curses and the maintaining spiritual energy of the brand in that person will also be cut off. Because the effect of this formation is too overbearing and extraordinary,
We, Fukang Dao sect, have hidden this formation in this high tower to cut off all aura exploration so that others cannot detect it. Using this formation, we may be able to cut off the spiritual connection that maintains the brand in your body, and achieve the effect of erasing the brand. How about it? Do you dare to let me try it?
Master, please try.
Suliang said calmly. In this short sentence, there was absolute trust in Wan Cheng. He thinks to himself that his master will never harm him. The worst case scenario is that this method is useless and will definitely not cause any harm to him. In this case, it is better to let the master try it. Hearing Suliang's words, Wan Qing suddenly felt much better. She smiled at Suliang, and then her beautiful face became serious. Get ready, becoming a teacher is about to begin. Say it. Wan Qing stretched out her hand and fired out a few streams of true energy, instantly activating the formation. At this moment, the formation was moving, and bursts of mysterious aura were exuded from it. In an instant, it enveloped Suliang's body. The aura was like a knife. In just the blink of an eye, it cut off all connections between Suliang's body and the spiritual energy of the outside world. But it doesn't include the brand. Just when the mysterious aura like a knife approached the brand suddenly flickered, and then, a small figure exuding awe-inspiring demonic aura emerged from the brand, stretched out his hand, and grabbed the mysterious aura. Breath. Immediately, the figure clenched its hands tightly, as if it was about to crush the effect of the formation. How could I let you succeed? Wan Qing shouted softly, and with all her strength, the true energy in her body was running wildly, pouring into the formation as if it was free, adding a bit of strength to the formation, trying to break free from the control of the phantom. And this sudden increase of true energy, although it is not enough to make the effect of the formation break away from the phantom, miraculously achieves a level of rivalry with the phantom. As a result, Wan Qing and the imprint left by the Queen of the Abyss heard the formation and started fighting. At first, Wan Qing was indeed in a stalemate with the phantom of the brand. She even felt several times that she was about to suppress the phantom. This feeling made her unconsciously increase her true power. UN investment. But gradually, as her true energy gradually evaporated, the phantom gradually began to tighten its hands. No matter how much Wan Qing inputted her true energy, she could not do anything to stop the branded phantom. Just a moment. Click. There was a crisp sound, and Wan Qing suddenly took a few steps back, withdrawing her true energy into her body, and the large formation flickered for a few times before being completely extinguished. It turns out. Failed. Staring unwillingly as the shadow on the mark gradually disappeared, Wan Qing sighed dejectedly. She didn't expect that even though she had already used such a powerful formation, she still couldn't eliminate the mark. What should I do? Pursing her red lips lightly, Wan Qing calmed down and stepped forward to Suliang's side. She looked at the brand and felt it for a moment. Call. Wan Qing breathed a sigh of relief and said to Suliang, although the mark on you has not been completely eliminated, it has weakened many of its spiritual connections. But, this only delays the time limit for the outbreak of some brands. It probably buys you 3 years. In this way, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. 3 months was too short, and Wan Qing was not sure she could find a way to save Suliang, but 3 years. At least the hope is greater. Hearing this, Suliang smiled softly and said, Master has tried his best. While talking, Suliang looked at Wan Qing and saw that at this moment, Wan Qing's whole body was soaked with sweat because of the struggle just now, and she was dripping with fragrant sweat. But looking like this, not only does she not feel embarrassed, but she also shows a soft and charming appearance because of the hair that sticks to her face, the moist red lips on her face, and the vivid figure that sticks to her body. It's really heartwarming. After looking at Wan Qing for a moment, Suliang couldn't help but stretched out his hand, hugged Wan Qing into his arms, and said gratefully, "Thank you, Master, for working so hard on my affairs." Hearing this, Wan Qing's pretty face blushed slightly, she glanced at Suliang happily, and almost couldn't help but kiss him. If I remember correctly, this should be the first time that Master has taken such initiative, right? So happy. The strategy plan has made phased progress. After leaning in Suliang's arms for a moment, feeling the warmth and stability in Suliang's arms, Wan Qing bit her soft lips and hesitated for a moment, then took the opportunity to make her request, "Humph, since my dear disciple knows that Master it's so hard, then go take a bath with Master. This is Master's request, you can't refuse." Hearing this, Suliang was speechless. As a master, I have changed my attitude too quickly. Just now, I looked worried about myself, and now I am greedy for myself? In the bath. Suliang took off his bathrobe and soaked in the warm water. He felt light and comfortable all over. After a big battle in Daxia, and then facing the Queen of the Abyss, and traveling all the way, Suliang had long been extremely tired, and taking a bath at this moment was a good way to relieve his fatigue. And this time, Wan Qing walked in from the door and looked at Suliang's back in the pool. A blush appeared on her pretty face. Without any hesitation, she reached out and untied the ties on her bathrobe. Moment. The yukata slipped off, revealing Wan Qing's soft and delicate body. The skin is fair and smooth, like beautiful jade, and seems to exude a shimmering light. A pair of proud peaks are upright. Although the scale is far beyond ordinary people, there is no feeling of sinking. Further down, Wan Qing has a flat belly and a slender waist, connected to a pair of slender and tight legs with a little plump feeling, and a pair of petite and cute feet lightly stepping on the ground. Everywhere on her body it's the perfect proportion. I just want to be picked up and have a full meal. Wow! The sound of water flow made Wan Qing's petite feet move, and she stepped directly into the water without missing a trace. Suliang. Calling Suliang's name softly, Wan Qing's cheeks were flushed, her eyes were as silky as silk, her lips were slightly open, and she kept getting closer to Suliang with a charming look. In the end, she even directly hugged Suliang's arms. Moment. Suliang only felt that his arm was trapped in two soft and extremely soft bundles. As his arm sank in, the two bundles also began to deform, perfectly fitting the shape of his arm. Wonking gradually turns into the shape of Suliang.jpg, Bathing Limited Edition. For a moment, Suliang felt extremely excited and his nose was about to bleed. There is no way, the scale of my master is really too impressive, both in shape and touch, they are all top-notch, not to mention my girlfriend, even my sister, or the Queen Mother Qin Wanyu cannot compare with it. Originally, Suliang had been slightly moved by Wan Qing's strategy in the past few days, but now, he was even more intolerable. However, Suliang still restrained his heartbeat with great perseverance, and used a little force to pull his arm out, but the result was that not only did the arm not come out, but the pair of proud peaks rippled like ripples. Well. Wan Qing snorted, looking at Suliang, the moist and charming eyes became more obvious, "My good disciple, this is not honest." Ahem. Suliang coughed lightly and no longer dared to move too much. He just said, "Master, take a good bath." "I'm just taking a good bath." Wan Qing showed a soft smile and said, "Come, good disciple, let me serve you and take a good bath." "Say it." Before Suliang could say anything, Wan Qing rushed forward and hugged Suliang tightly. Moment. Wan Qing's soft and delicate body fit perfectly with Suliang's without any gaps. It was white and smooth, and due to the contamination of the warm water, it had a special smooth feeling, which immediately made Suliang unable to stop, and he almost wanted to hug her. Especially Wan Qing's pair of proud peaks, which fit right on Suliang's chest, and deformed due to the force, squeezing tightly there, giving it a soft, yet elastic feeling. "It's so comfortable." God knows how much perseverance Suliang had, so he couldn't pounce directly on his master and become a rebel disciple. But then, Wan Qing put her arms around Suliang's neck and wrapped her legs around Suliang's waist. Due to their movements, they accidentally came into contact. It was so hot that the two of them couldn't help but feel excited. Who can bear this? Suliang gritted his teeth tightly and clenched his fists, preventing himself from making any movements. At this moment, Suliang felt that even the slightest movement on his part might cause the giant sword to drink blood. But Wan Qing didn't care at all about this kind of contact. Her pretty face turned even redder, and the moisture and charm in her eyes was already overflowing. Her voice was soft and charming, and she was extremely charming. "Don't move, my dear disciple, my teacher is coming. Say it." Wan Qing hugged Suliang tightly, moved up and down, left and right, and started to wipe Suliang's body with the proud peak as the base point. Although the two of them still haven't broken through the final level of their relationship, for Wan Qing, this is already the boldest behavior she can make in the current situation. After all, if you were any bolder, you might scare master away. Why didn't she want to take her time with her master, let everything fall into place, and when the two of them reached the deepest level of love, they could reach the ultimate realm that they had never climbed before. But now that time is limited, Wan Qing feels that she should be bolder. It's better to start from this time. At night, in Wan Qing's room, Suliang looked at Wan Qing, who was spreading the quilt, and asked hesitantly, "Master, you haven't arranged a room for me yet, right? Where should I sleep?" Although he asked this question, Suliang already had his own guess. Wan Qing did not answer Suliang immediately. She waited until she was warmed by me before looking at Suliang and inviting her, "How about sleeping with me, my good disciple?" "Oh, master, didn't you forget to arrange a room for you? Anyway, we haven't been this close to each other for a long time. Wouldn't it be nice to sleep in the same bed tonight and exchange feelings? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 265. With that said, as if to block Suliang's last escape route, Wan Qing said, "Look, it's already so late. It's impossible for me to arrange a room for you. Of course you can refuse to be my teacher, but the result, you can't leave my teacher's room anyway, so if you agree, you can sleep on the bed, but if you don't, you can't sleep." Hearing this, Suliang was completely stunned. "Master, you have good intentions in order to make your disciples become master-defying disciples." To be honest, although sleeping with the master was not unheard of, Suliang was indeed a bit unable to accept it. After all, he has finally discovered that his master seems to be extra bold now, and his state is a little different. "I almost lost control when I took a shower today. If we sleep together at night, who knows what will happen?" But for Wan Qing, does master want to escape? No way. Before Suliang could react, Wan Qing quickly took action and closed the doors and windows. It's impossible for Suliang to get out. After looking at the closed doors and windows, and then at the expectant master, Suliang sighed and accepted his fate. That's all, since there's no way to escape, it's better to just relax. Go to bed. I want to see what master is going to do to me, a patient who can only live for 3 years. Late at night, Wan Qing was lying on the bed, her beautiful eyes widened, and she looked closely at Suliang's profile. For a moment, she felt no sleep at all and couldn't sleep at all. Perhaps it was because the feeling of being stared at was not very good. Suliang, who was also not asleep, finally opened his eyes and said helplessly, "Master, what are you doing?" Suliang said to Wan Qing helplessly, "It's already so late, and there's nothing to do tomorrow. Master, it's better to go to bed quickly." "But I didn't expect it." Volume 1 Hashtag Chapter 243 Is Master so brave? You should resist. Seeing Suliang open his eyes, Wan Qing didn't say a word, but the beautiful eyes staring at Suliang began to shine with a strange light. See this. Suliang swallowed hard, and a bad feeling arose in his heart. Master, what are you going to do? The words just fell. Wan Qing immediately stood up, lifted the quilt, and fell on Suliang. The whole body was attached to Suliang's body, with a pair of proud peaks squeezing Suliang tightly. Wan Qing looked at Suliang with shining eyes, placed her chin on Suliang's chest, and said happily, "Of course it's with my family." Good disciple, post it. Good disciple, why don't we do something fun? Something fun? Suliang was startled and then panicked. Master, don't want it? Something fun. Suliang blinked, and what happened while taking a shower suddenly appeared in his mind. It's really fun. It's no wonder that Suliang has something wrong. It's actually late at night, and he and his master are a man and a woman. The master is still lying on top of him. It was like that when he took a shower before, and the master has always had evil intentions towards him. No matter who it is, they will think of something reasonable, right? However, master will definitely not continue to be like this with me, right? I have already done it once before when taking a shower. Although there is still no substantial progress, it is bold enough. Master is definitely not that brave. Master, she must be just joking, right? Thinking in his mind, Suliang, who thought Master was joking, did not refuse immediately, but asked, Master, do you want to do something fun? Hearing this, Wan Qing smiled, then licked her red lips with her fragrant tongue and said in a charming voice, "You'll find out later." Say it. Wan Qing lifted the quilt and covered herself with it. Then, she went all the way down and leaned down to the position under Suliang. Feeling the position of his master, Suliang immediately took a breath. He thought the master was joking before, but now it seems that the master is serious. No, is master so brave? Isn't that too bold? No, no, we can't go on like this, otherwise, if I can't bear it anymore, the gun goes off, and the giant sword is thirsty for blood. If you master this art, then things will be very serious. Then, thinking in his mind, Suliang reached down decisively, intending to stop the master, but rejected the master's request. But before he could do anything else, Wan Qing below suddenly untied her shirt, then picked up the pair of proud peaks and tightly wrapped the dragon-slaying giant sword. Moment. It was different from the softness, elasticity, and smoothness that went deep into the deep abyss to slay a dragon. Suliang was so overwhelmed that he almost screamed. Master, you can't do this. Suliang refused the master's actions. But then, as Wan Qing continued to move up and down, left and right, the words in Suliang's mouth became much less frequent, and in the end, they simply stopped completely. There is no other way. Although I refuse in my heart, my body is very honest and I can't refuse at all. What can I do? Then, that night, Wan Qing had enough meat, eggs, and milk, and Suliang's relationship with his master took a further step. Early the next morning, Wan Qing found the senior officials of Fukang Dao sect and ordered, "Go ahead and send people to search and sift through the ancient books about the abyss. I will take a look later." Immediately, he held Suliang's arm with a soft smile on his face. "Let's go, I'll take you to visit Fukang Dao section. As my disciple, although you are now in Tiandao sect, theoretically, you can treat this place as your own. In Fukang Dao sect, as a disciple of me, the Taoist master, you have a very high status." Nodding, Suliang did not talk easily, his eyes were all attracted by the scenery of Fukang Dao sect along the way. This is a place where disciples practice and communicate. Pointing to a surprisingly large square-like place, Wan Qing introduced it. Su Liang looked over and saw countless disciples practicing martial arts and exchanging ideas. Although they are just ordinary disciples, the martial arts moves performed by these people are extremely exquisite, and some even far surpass the martial arts practiced by Tianjiao disciples of Tiandao sect. This is the foundation of Shangzong. Even ordinary outer disciples can actually practice such exquisite tricks. Su Liangzhong was quite impressed by this. Immediately afterwards, after walking a while further, Wan Qing pointed to a pavilion. Here is the place for alchemy. There are elders with advanced cultivation or disciples who are proficient in this way. They refine elixirs there, either for their own use or for their own use it's for sale, but I can often harvest some good things. Su Liang looked over and saw that it was a tall palace, standing in the mountain. In front of the palace, there was a long staircase, which seemed to have a strange Taoist charm flowing through it. The smoke rising from the surrounding area added an ethereal air to the palace. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing pointed to a 9-story tower on the other side and said, "There is the library of Fukang Taoist sect, which contains all kinds of scriptures, secrets, and miscellaneous talks, as well as exercises and martial arts for cultivation. In it, it is perfectly preserved." 9. The number is extremely high. The construction of the tower is 90%, which means the ultimate state of immortality in the world. This tower is majestic and majestic. 2 huge wooden doors seal its connection with the outside world, and it looks extremely majestic. Look at the high tower of Fukang Dao sect as the library, and then think about the library of our own Tiandao section. Su Liang smacked his tongue slightly. It seemed that although his Tiandao sect was indeed powerful now, its background was still not comparable to that of other sections. Next, Wan Qing took Su Liang to visit many places. No matter which building is built, it is magnificent and magnificent. Although each has its own characteristics, there is a strange Taoist charm flowing faintly. When the mist rises, the entire Fukang Taoist sect is shrouded in it, bringing with it a hint of ethereal fairy spirit. It can be said that in Su Liang's eyes, the entire Fukang Dao sect can be called a fairyland on earth. And just then, when the two of them passed by a martial arts arena, Wan Qing stopped with Su Liang, pointed to the bustle in several arenas, and said, "My good disciple, you came here at the right time. It's the right moment during the grand gatherings of the Dao sect. The disciples in the sect all come here to compete and test their cultivation. Although their cultivation is a bit low, there are also some characters among them who are eye-catching. Watch carefully and see if you can win them with your ability." After hearing this, Su Liang turned his head and looked at the arenas. But after a moment, Su Liang shook his head, feeling slightly disappointed. Those fighting in the arena are all the inner sects of Fukang Dao sect, and even the Tianjiao disciples. If compared with the Tianjiao disciples of other small sects, these people are indeed infinitely stronger. Regardless of their cultivation strength or combat experience, they are all peers. Crushing level. But from Su Liang's current perspective, the battle these people are fighting now is nothing more than this. Not to mention the low level of cultivation, the fighting experience of these people is ridiculously immature. Although they have superb cultivation and exquisite martial arts, they are not fully displayed at all, and they are very rough in fighting. Even when he was at a lower level than them, Su Liang was confident of sealing their throats with one sword in the face of their immature fighting style. It seems that even the so-called genius of the sect is very average. I am completely sorry for the title of Shangzong Tianjiao. Thinking in his mind, Su Liang shook his head again. In the eyes of Su Liang, who has experienced several life and death battles, killed countless demons, and faced the Queen of the Abyss in person, any talent is too ordinary. Su Liang's disappointed look was barely concealed and was instantly noticed by Wan Qing, who had been watching him. To be honest, not only Su Liang thought so, but even Wan Qing felt that these people were no match for Su Liang. She had seen with her own eyes how fast Su Liang had grown, and until now, Wan Qing didn't know how many trump cards Suliang had, and she had never seen Suliang really go all out to fight. But she knew that although Suliang was only in the dragon transformation realm now, even the so-called genius who was in the immortality realm was no match for Suliang. So, as for Suliang's strength, Wan Qing can only describe it as unfathomable. This is truly invincible at the same level. Thinking of Suliang's magic, Wan Qing smiled as the battle on the ring ended, took Suliang's hand, led Suliang to the edge of the ring, and then pushed Suliang away. Go up. Subsequently, before Suliang could react, Wan Qing began to show off the disciple he had taught. Suliang is my close disciple. Although he is still a young man now, his cultivation has reached the 9th level of the dragon transformation realm. His strength is he is even able to rival those in the immortality realm, and has never been defeated since his debut, which is very impressive. The environment where Suliang grew up was only a small sect like Tiandao sect, but he still has such a level of cultivation. As for you, in the Shang Zone, the resources, elixirs, martial arts, and techniques that you can obtain are all incomparable to him. However, after practicing for several years, you are still not as good as Suliang. Why not? Let him help me teach you juniors who sit in a well and watch the sky, so that you can know what it means to have people outside the world, and there is a sky outside the sky. As soon as these words came out, all the disciples and geniuses present showed unconvinced expressions. What's more, he unabashedly showed his deep hostility towards Suliang. In their opinion, even if the Taoist master said this, he could not believe it easily. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 266. What the hell is Suliang? His cultivation level is only at the 9th level of Dragon Transformation Realm, and he can't even defeat some Taoist masters in the sect. Even if his cultivation level is better than ours, he is in a sect like Tiandao sect that has never been heard of, with limited resources, and no advanced martial arts or techniques. How can he possibly compare with us? Forget it, since the Taoist master asked him to teach us a lesson, then we will give Suliang a good beating in front of the Taoist master, so that Suliang, who is sitting in a well and looking at the sky, can see what is a proud son of the Shang Zone and what is a proud son of the Shang Zone. Really powerful. Facing the hostility and dissatisfaction of all the disciples, Suliang smiled helplessly, but did not mean to refuse at all. Instead, he put his hands behind his back with an enigmatic look. Who among you will come first? Since the master has said this to himself, and he really looks down on them, there is really no reason to refuse. Suliang's attitude naturally aroused everyone's dissatisfaction. And just then, Wan Qing suddenly sent a message to all the elders and said, "You can send people up. If there are any disciples who can win over me, they can get my personal guidance." After saying this, all the elders who spoke were shocked. Is what the Taoist said serious? In the eyes of these elders, the Dao master's cultivation strength is far beyond their imagination. It is definitely a rare opportunity to get guidance from such a person. Even they have been longing for the Tao master's personal guidance, let alone these disciples. If they learn about this reward, not all of these disciples will go crazy. As for this disciple of the Taoist master, he was originally from a small section. He had no advanced and exquisite martial arts skills, and his cultivation was not overwhelmingly powerful. How could he win against a group of crazy Taoist sect prides? Is the Taoist deceiving his disciple? I thought to myself that all the elders could not understand the current situation at all. But their lack of understanding does not prevent them from conveying the Taoist's meaning. An elder came forward and spoke. The Taoist master has said that if anyone can defeat Suliang, he can get personal guidance from the Taoist master. After hearing this, Everyone on the scene fell silent for a moment, as if they were too shocked by the shocking news to think, and no one could react. But only after a moment. Boom! Everyone present became enthusiastic as the elder expected. If you can gain some insights from the Tao Master's personal guidance, you can reach the sky in one step. This opportunity must not be missed. Then, before Suliang could react, 2 male and 2 female challengers appeared on the stage. There are 10 challengers in total, including men and women. All of them are powerful people. Yang Xinbo, the second level of dragon transformation, Zhang Qian, the second level of dragon transformation, Wurong, the 8th level of dragon transformation, Linzhou, the 9th level of dragon transformation, Yu Yan, the peak of dragon transformation, Yejiangnan. Although he is also at the peak of dragon transformation, he has already touched it. The threshold of the immortality realm may be breached at any time. The strength of these 10 people ranges from strong to weak, and almost none are below the dragon transformation realm. They are all newly promoted inner sect geniuses, known as Fukang's top 10, and are candidates for the Taoist disciples of Fukang Dao sect. At this moment, these 10 people stood in front of Suliang. All of them were full of arrogance. They did not take Suliang seriously and seemed to be sure of defeating Suliang. Are you going to challenge me? Suliang looked at the 10 people standing in front of him and made a gesture of invitation. Just take action. I come. Yang Xinbo, the weakest among the 10, jumped out and stabbed Suliang with the spear in his hand. See this. Everyone below was all cheering for Yang Xinbo, but none of them thought Suliang could win. Even the elders are very optimistic about Yang Xinbo. Although his cultivation is not strong, his marksmanship is extremely exquisite, and the spear is a rare weapon. How can he not defeat Suliang? However, Volume 1 Chapter 244 Sweeping the Sex Genius, the reward from the Master, Daozai's heart is like a knife. Next moment, Suliang clasped his hands behind his back, glanced at Yang Xinbo lightly, and said calmly, "You want to challenge me, but you're not qualified yet, go ahead. Say it." A sword energy appeared out of thin air and hit the spear in Yang Xinbo's hand directly, causing Yang Xinbo to vomit blood and fly backwards, leaving him unable to fight anymore. A split second. It turned out to be an instant. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. No one expected that Suliang could defeat one of Fukang's top 10 so easily. Immediately afterwards, I come. Zhang Qian came out and a folding fan appeared in his hand. He unfolded the folding fan and rushed towards Suliang. Although the folding fan used by this person is such a strange weapon, this folding fan is carefully crafted. The fan surface is tough and the fan bones are like fine steel swords. There are flying needles hidden in them, which are difficult to deal with. But facing such an enemy, Suliang still did not move. He just shook his head and said, "Go down." Moment. Another sword energy flew forward, penetrating the carefully crafted folding fan, and hit Zhang Qian, knocking him off the stage and vomiting blood. Unexpectedly, it was an instant again. At this moment, everyone present was almost so surprised that they opened their mouths. But this is just the beginning. Next. Starting from the 8th ranked person to the 2nd ranked woman Yu Yan, they all took the stage one after another. They were all powerful people, and they all had different styles of moves and each had their own wins. But Suliang almost always stepped down instantly. Everyone present was constantly stimulated and shocked by Suliang. By now, they were so numb that they could no longer express their emotions. Even those elders are like this. At this time, in the arena, only the strongest Yejiangnan was left in the Fukang Dao sect. Yejiangnan slowly entered the stage and walked in front of Suliang. A broken blade exuding a cold light appeared in his hand. The broken blade is only as long as a dagger. The fractures are uneven, but extremely sharp. Not only does it not affect the performance of this weapon,
but it is like a second blade, possessing extremely powerful lethality. The handle of the knife is not too long, just like the length of the handle of an ordinary dagger, which is just suitable for holding in the hand. Overall, this broken blade is not so much a broken blade as it is deliberately forged to look like this. As appropriate. This broken blade was obtained by Yejiangnan from a ruins. Its hardness and sharpness are far superior to ordinary weapons, but it is also extremely light. It is just suitable for Yejiangnan's style of hiding in the dark and killing with one strike. Therefore, it has been used by him until now. He regards it as a treasure and has been reluctant to replace it. Seeing Yejiangnan come on stage, all the elders below breathed a sigh of relief. Only one person said, "With Jiangnan on the stage, we can breathe a sigh of relief. With Jiangnan's ability, I think he won't be defeated by the Suliang." Another person echoed, "It's true that Zhang Nan hides and moves forward, and his assassination methods are at their peak. Although this method has always been despised by others and is less upright, his power is real. Furthermore, although Jiangnan and others are among the top 10 of Fukang, you and I actually understand that Jiangnan's strength is far superior to theirs. Even we may not be able to break through his concealment. The art of. With such ability, how can he lose to Suliang, who is at the 9th level of dragon transformation?" Listening to what these two people said, everyone else nodded in agreement, feeling that Yejiangnan had a great chance of winning. Even the disciples watching below also thought and discussed this. It's not that they were hostile to Suliang, but after all, Suliang was just a person who appeared suddenly. Even though he was a disciple of the Taoist master, such a person from a small sect defeated all the geniuses of their section. Then they are really too embarrassed. Furthermore, after defeating Suliang, they will have the opportunity to have the Taoist master personally give guidance. Even if they don't get such an opportunity themselves, they should always want to see their own people get it. "You are very strong." Yejiangnan's voice was calm and cold, "but, it's not as good as me." "Say it." Before Suliang could react, Yejiangnan's figure suddenly disappeared. "I'm quite anxious." Suliang shook his head and smiled, but suddenly turned his head and punched a blank place that no one expected. "See this?" All the elders and disciples laughed and said nothing. "Just kidding, Yejiangnan is the most powerful genius under the Taoist class, but even the elders cannot detect his hiding ability. Suliang, who is only in the dragon transformation realm, still wants to see through it? Isn't it a joke?" But then, boom! After a dull sound, everyone was shocked to see that Yejiangnan, who had completely hidden his figure before, was completely beaten out by Suliang's punch. This punch hit Yejiangnan directly on the face. In an instant, Yejiangnan vomited blood and flew backwards. His eyes rolled up and he seemed to be unconscious. At the same time, a white thing was spinning and flying in mid-air. It seemed to be a tooth. The most powerful prodigy under the Taoist disciple of Fukang Dao sect was beaten directly into the state by Suliang. Moreover, it's an instant. This moment. Everyone present, whether they were elders or disciples, all had their eyes widened and their mouths widened. They looked in disbelief at Suliang, who had his hands behind his back on the stage and looked relaxed. Almost all of Fukang's top 10 were defeated instantly by him, without the slightest ability to fight back. This Suliang is obviously only at the 9th level of dragon transformation, but why is he so powerful? How on earth do you practice? All I can say is that he is worthy of being a disciple of Taoism. At this moment, Suliang clapped his hands, walked down from the ring, walked straight to Wanqing, and said respectfully, reporting to Master, "I am glad that I have lived up to my command." Seeing Suliang like this, the disciples all lowered their heads unconsciously, too ashamed to look directly at him. Logically speaking, a talented person from a small sect would only have about the same strength as the inner disciples of their upper sect. However,
Su Liang directly crushed the 10 most powerful geniuses under them. Such a record was enough to make them unable to lift their heads. Even the elders sighed and felt quite ashamed. See this. Wan Qing looked at the disciples and elders and asked, "Is this how you practice? The sect provides you with massive resources, and many cherished skills and martial arts are available for you to read, but even so, the strongest person among you cannot even defeat my disciples. I would like to ask you, where have you used the resources and mentors that Daozong gave you? Your cultivation environment is the best in the world, but this is no reason for you to slack off." After hearing this, all the slacking disciples present felt their faces burning and their hearts filled with shame. Seeing this scene, Wan Qing knew that her goal had been achieved, so she stopped beating, and instead looked at her good disciple and praised him. He nodded with satisfaction and praised, "That's right. It's worth teaching you as a teacher. Even when my master is not with you, you have been cultivating hard and never slacked off. Well, my master is very satisfied with you. Thank you, master, for the compliment." Su Liang saluted his master meticulously. Although he has almost become a rebel disciple, but after all, in front of outsiders, Su Liang feels that he should still give his master some face. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 267. After patting Su Liang, Wan Qing looked at the elders again. "Oh, I know that, you will definitely think that Su Liang is my disciple, and it is right for him to be better than them after being taught by me. However, I might as well tell you that I have only taught Su Liang for a few months." Hearing this, all the elders took a deep breath unconsciously and said in admiration, as expected of the Taoist master, "He has taught such a peerless genius in just a few months. This ability is unparalleled by anyone in the world." There is one thing to say, indeed. In the eyes of these elders, if Su Liang is left to them, even if they take a few years, they may not be able to teach Su Liang to what he is now. All I can say is that the Taoist is the Taoist, and he is awesome. After visiting Fukang Taoist sect, Wan Qing took Su Liang back to her room. After making sure that no one was around, Wan Qing closed the door and pushed her apprentice onto the bed. Immediately afterwards, she raised her head slightly, wrapped her slender legs around her apprentice's waist, and sat completely on top of her apprentice. She put her arms around his apprentice's neck, moved her pretty face close to her apprentice, and said softly, "Good apprentice, what are you doing today? You are very good, you actually defeated those geniuses. I plan to give you some rewards to celebrate your success, what do you think?" At this point, Wan Qingxiang licked her red lips with her tongue and said with a gentle look, "My good disciple, what reward do you want? How about we come in the evening?" Su Liang said tentatively, although after what happened yesterday, his relationship with his master has indeed become much closer, and he is not very resistant to being close to his master. But it's still a bit uncomfortable in broad daylight now. But Wan Qing shook her head firmly, "No, what should be done now must be done now, why not delay it until night? That's all, since you don't choose, then my teacher will choose for you. Well, let's do this. I'll give you a massage and serve you well. How about that?" Ahem. Su Liang coughed lightly but didn't react. After all, the person in front of me is my master, so I feel that no matter what reaction I have now, it doesn't seem quite right. Wan Qing didn't care about Su Liang's reaction. Seeing that Su Liang had no objection, Wan Qing straightened up immediately. Immediately afterwards, the gentle look on Wan Qing's face immediately disappeared, replaced by a cold and arrogant look when facing outsiders. Sitting on her apprentice's lap, Wan Qing straightened up and looked at her apprentice condescendingly. Her pretty face was cold and arrogant, and her eyes were dull, with a slight feeling of disgust. "Humph, I never expected that you, a rebellious disciple, would dare to covet my master so much. That's all. You are my master's apprentice after all. I will satisfy you once as my master, so what? It's just that you need to finish it as soon as possible. I don't have time as a teacher. It's such a waste to accompany you. Master, please figure it out, okay? It's not me coveting you, it's you clearly coveting your apprentice. Suliang was complaining slightly, but he didn't show it. How could he not see that his master was role-playing with him? What should be said should not be said, but it was quite satisfying to be struck by the cold arrogance of one's own master, and yet to be disgusted by it and eager to give it a try. The two of them stared at it with hope and excitement. The old fan chart. Then, thank you, master. Suliang cooperated decisively with his master, with a malicious smile on his face, and hugged his master with his backhand. Master, come on, my disciple is ready. Snort. With a soft snort, Wan Qing's face showed a hint of crimson, and then she pressed forward and leaned over Suliang. With her arms around Suliang's neck and her legs wrapped around Suliang's waist, Wan Qing used her strength to squeeze Suliang's body tightly, rubbing up and down, left and right, and massaging Suliang's body. Front. Feeling the ultimate feeling of softness, elasticity, and a little strength on his body, Suliang couldn't help but sigh comfortably. As expected of my master, this massage technique is comparable to that of my sister, who I am already very familiar with. And a moment later, Wan Qing suddenly let go of Suliang and pushed Suliang down on the bed with a gentle push. Immediately afterwards, turning Suliang over and letting him lie on the bed, Wan Qing came close to Suliang's ear and whispered, "My dear disciple, I have learned a new skill for you, and now it's time to test it. It's time to learn this technique as a teacher. Say it." Before Suliang could react, Wan Qing directly lifted Suliang's shirt. Then, she moved her entire body onto Suliang's legs, sat down firmly, put her hands behind her to support her body, and wore a pair of black silk stockings. The wrapped soft jade feet stepped on Suliang's back. The small jade feet stepped lightly and heavily, and the small, soft, yet smooth touch of silk stockings instantly touched Suliang's nerves, making Suliang take a breath. Comfortable. It's so exciting, isn't it? Master's skills are even better than my sister's. In the study room of Wanking Courtyard, Wan Qing sat in front of the desk, looking through the information about the abyss on the desk, sometimes frowning, sometimes showing a smile. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and Mo Bianxian walked in with a stack of thick books in his hands. "Master, this is the information about the abyss collected by the disciples. Master, please check it." Handing the thing in his hand to Wan Qing, Mo Bianxian suddenly coughed twice, with a trace of pain on his face. But this look of pain was immediately suppressed by him, and even Wan Qing did not see it. In fact, Mo Dangxian had been hiding the previous injury from Wan Qing. Even now, he has not told Wan Qing even a little bit. But, after all, Mo Bianxian's cultivation level was much lower than Wan Qing's. If Wan Qing was serious, he could actually find Mo Bianxian's situation even with just a glance. But Wan Qing had no intention of even looking at him, and had no intention of paying attention to him at all. She just obtained the information about the abyss from him, and Wan Qing continued to investigate the abyss. See this. Mo Tongxian only felt his heart twitch, and an indescribable feeling of heartache appeared. I like the master so much, but the master doesn't take me to heart at all. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Master, she just didn't discover her situation. If she found out, Master would definitely worry about herself, love herself, and try her best to find a solution for herself. Master, respect her, Master, she can only be mine. With a strange thought in his mind, Mo took a few stepped forward, and began to approach Wan Qing. "Disciple, I see that the master is diligently searching for things related to the abyss. I'm afraid, for the master, This matter is it's no small matter, it's very important. In that case, how about asking my disciple to help master search for it together? However, facing Mo Tingxian's proactive approach, Wan Qing was extremely indifferent. Let alone agreeing or rejecting, Wan Qing didn't even look at him, pretending that he didn't exist. For Mo Tongxian, this kind of ignorance is worse than letting master reject me intuitively. And this time. Ahem. Suliang on the side suddenly coughed, and there was also a look of pain on his face. See this. Wan Qing immediately put down what she was doing, held Suliang's hand with concern, frowned slightly. My good disciple, is the branding acting up again? I'm fine, master, don't worry about me. Suliang shook his head and said with a smile. Seeing Suliang's smiling face, Wan Qing couldn't bear it any longer and hugged Suliang tightly with a firm expression. Don't worry, good disciple, no matter what the price, master will definitely give it to you. You find a solution and save yours. When talking to Suliang, Wan Qing was very affectionate and gentle, which was completely different from when she was treating Mo Binji. This is a treatment I have never enjoyed before. Seeing his beloved master treating Suliang like this, Mo Bianxian subconsciously covered his heart, feeling extremely uncomfortable. Master, don't you know how much your disciple loves you? Why do you want to show affection to others in front of me? Master, please tell me you love me. Master, you can only be mine, don't do this to others. Master, woo woo woo, my master. His eyes were slightly red, his fists were clenched, his teeth were clenched, his body was trembling slightly, and he looked like he was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, Mo Yishan felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. Don't wait any longer, I'm so heartbroken that I can't breathe. Wan Qing began to search for all information about the abyss, and was very busy. The gap in the abyss has existed for so many years, and evil spirits have occasionally appeared. Although the number of times is not too high, and there are not many records, but after so many years, there have been many chaos, and the overall number is really not small. If you want to find what you want, even if Wan Qing relies on her superb cultivation and is extremely efficient, it will inevitably take a lot of time. This is not something that can be accomplished in a short while. But Suliang couldn't get involved in all this. Then, Suliang was completely free. After wandering around Fukang Dao sect again, and finding nothing to do, Suliang decided to go to the Sutra Collection Pavilion and read through the various classics of Fukang Dao sect. Volume 1 Chapter 245, A Taoist who defies heaven's understanding and becomes a unit of measurement, monopolizing his disciples' happiness. To be honest, as a sect with a long history and profound foundation, the various classics in Fukang Dao sect's scripture pavilion cannot be compared to Tiandao sect in terms of quantity and quality. Just like the Bodhi mirror technique that Wan Qing taught him before, in the Tiandao sect, it can be said to be a powerful technique that has almost never been possessed, but in the Fukang Dao sect, although it is not bad, it is actually only so be it. It's not something too unusual. Now that he finally came to Shangzhou, Suliang naturally wanted to enrich himself. Slowly walking to the door of the Sutra Pavilion, Suliang looked at the towering 9-story tower and sighed slightly. The tower has 9 floors, each floor is very majestic. It is full of collections of classics. The surroundings are surrounded by clouds and mist. Just standing in front of the door makes you feel like you are in a fairyland. The unpretentious wooden door has a 3-character Buddhist scripture on it. The pavilion is shining. This scale and structure far exceeds that of Tiandao sect. Bulk rankings, nothing better than this. After admiring the magnificent waves of the Sutra Pavilion from a close distance, Suliang put his thoughts away and walked straight to the door of the Sutra Pavilion. At this moment, but a ghostly figure suddenly appeared in front of Suliang. It was an elder from Fukang Dao sect who guarded the Sutra Pavilion. Looking at Suliang indifferently, the elder stretched out a hand and said, "Token." Suliang nodded, knowing that this was the normal procedure for entering the Sutra Pavilion, so he searched for it on his body, took out a token, and put it in the elder's hand. At the same time, the elder continued to explain the rules. The token in your hand is a symbol of your strength, cultivation, and potential. According to the different scores of these three dimensions, the token is also divided into 8. Each level can only enter the corresponding level of the Tibetan scripture pavilion and below. Even though you are a disciple of the Taoist master, you must abide by this rule. Don't expect this elder to make an exception for you. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 268. But before the elder could finish his words, the elder looked at the token in his hand, his pupils shrank, and his voice suddenly stopped. It turned out to be Fukangling. The so-called Fukangling is a token that is black on the outside and forged from an extremely rare metal. The tokens in the hands of Dao sect disciples, from small to large, are made of iron, copper, silver, gold and other metals. Each type represents a level of cultivation, strength, potential, and also represents the disciple. Authority within the sect. Among them, the lowest is iron, most of which are new disciples, and the highest is sapphire, which can only be held by Dizzy level, but can only read the 8th level and below. And this Fukangling. It can only be possessed by super geniuses who have surpassed the Daozai level. This kind of genius, even in a sect like Fukang Dao sect, has not appeared for thousands of years, but almost every one of them can become a famous figure in the world in the future. Disciples who hold this kind of Fukang order walk in the Tao sect and are given all the resources they can ask for. They can read all the classics. This authority is almost higher than that of the elders, and is already close to that of the Tao master. And this piece in Suliang's hand. At first glance, it looked brand new, and it exuded Suliang's aura. It was obvious that Suliang had obtained it by his own ability, rather than Wanqing forcibly obtaining it for him. This kid actually has such potential and strength. It's really scary. At this moment, the elder was so shocked that he was stunned by the Fukangling in Suliang's hand. And not just him. Everyone present, whether elders or disciples, were shocked and opened their mouths wide when they saw the Fukangling in Suliang's hand, unable to speak a word. You know, Fukangling is the representative of Suliang's top potential and strength. And Suliang could browse the entire scripture collection at will. This kind of top-level permission was what all of them wanted. Can I go in? Suliang didn't think there was anything wrong with the token. Wasn't this thing given to him by his master after he took him to test something? It should be some kind of universal token in Fukang Dao sect, nothing unusual. Please come in. After hearing Suliang's words, the elder regained his composure, returned Fukangling's hands to Suliang, and moved out of the way. Thank you. Suliang cupped his fists and said thank you, then walked into the scripture collection pavilion. And this time, I first took a few classics from the 9th and 8th floors, and then went straight to the 7th floor. This level is only accessible to the top geniuses below the level of Daozai in the section. Although the classics in it are not of the top level, they are rare to see outside. And the ones below. Basically, it's not as good as Suliang's own martial arts skills and martial arts. It can't provide any reference for Suliang at all, so don't read it. The 8th floor is where Taoists can set foot, and the 9th floor is where only elders, Tao masters, and Lord Fukang can set foot. Suliang randomly found a few books on the bookshelf. He didn't take them away, so he leaned on the bookshelf and read by himself. And this time, a beautiful elder quietly walked over from behind Suliang. She glanced at the martial arts books in Suliang's hands and was speechless. The idea of Bodhisattva requires visualizing the complete image of Bodhi in order to nourish the mind and strengthen the soul. However,
Bodhi is not so easy to visualize. At least it requires the epiphany of a person with top understanding before it can be understood. The sword of Wuji, the sword that cuts through the Wuji realm, is extremely powerful, but this Wuji realm is ethereal, with nowhere to ponder, and naturally no way to comprehend it. Even some top swordsmanship geniuses can learn it through sudden enlightenment. He doesn't know the sword technique. As for this heavenly spirit art, it is even more difficult. It absorbs the pure spiritual energy between the sky and the sky. After practicing it, both the speed of cultivation and the quality of the spiritual energy are far superior to ordinary people. But having said that, between the sky and the sky, it is already the land of immortals. How can a mortal learn such a heaven-defying magic so easily? Even if it is enlightened to death, it may not be able to comprehend it. He pursed his red lips and hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Suliang was enjoying the enlightenment, the beautiful elder stepped forward to persuade him, "Come here quickly." These exercises are some of the most difficult in the Taoist section. Most of them can only be understood through sudden enlightenment. What's more, it's beyond human capabilities and is very difficult. If you rashly realize it, not only will it not have any effect or improvement on you, but it will harm yourself. I think you should put it down and look at other things. Thank you for your concern, elder. Suliang smiled, but he didn't care at all and continued to read the books in his hand. Seeing how Suliang was polite but actually didn't care at all, the beautiful elder couldn't help but feel worried. What she said to Suliang was not exaggerated in the slightest. The books on the exercises that Suliang took, especially the ones she had just been thinking about in her mind, really couldn't be understood at will. If the enlightenment is successful, that would be a good thing, but if the enlightenment is not successful, it may really harm Suliang himself. At least it left Suliang confused for several years. At worst it permanently damaged Suliang's understanding. Not to mention permanently damaging Suliang's understanding, even if Suliang is left in a state of confusion for a few years, it is not something they can accept. After all, it's not easy for a genius with Fukang Ling to appear. If he misses a few years when his cultivation is progressing rapidly because of this, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Once upon a time, there were many talented people in Fukang Dao sect who ended up mediocre for this reason. No, we have to find a way, we can't let him go on like this. And at the same time, watching Suliang flipping through what was a forbidden book for them, many geniuses were gloating about his misfortune. A man chuckled softly, pretending to be whispering, but in fact he didn't cover up his voice at all. He said to his companions, "Junior sister, you know, senior brother, I have also met many talented people in the section. I have studied those classics. But as a result, many Tianjiao brothers were unable to understand on the spot and were damaged. Many of them were confused for several years. In addition, some of them became obsessed on the spot, while some had their understanding damaged and could only continue to practice as ordinary disciples. Even the senior brother with the strongest understanding and cultivation took a long time to understand a little bit. You can imagine how difficult it is to understand these classics." Hearing this, the junior sister next to him pretended to be shocked and said, "How could it be so scary? Senior brother, look at this junior brother who is meditating now, isn't this? You think too highly of yourself. It's too inflated." The senior brother took over the junior sister's words and said with a smile, "I really thought that after being taught by the Taoist master for a few months, I would be invincible. Humph, how can someone from a mere small sect dare to challenge the profound classics of my sect? It's just asking for death. That's it." And the words just finished here. Suliang suddenly closed the book Wuji Yujian, closed his eyes, and realized the truth in an instant. Next, Suliang opened his eyes again, and compared his hands to sword fingers. He lightly swiped in front of him, and a sword energy with infinite sword intent appeared. This Wuji realm is quite mysterious, and it is quite helpful for my swordsmanship.
Suliang nodded with satisfaction, and then picked up the next book of heavenly spirit art. He also realized the truth instantly. Then, the spiritual energy from the sky poured into Suliang's body. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. Countless geniuses have suffered damage to themselves, and even the top geniuses usually have to carefully study for a long time before they can understand the superficial skills and martial arts. Suliang actually understood it in an instant, and understood it in a moment. What kind of monster-like understanding is this? Compared with all the geniuses in Fukang Dao sect, Suliang's talent and understanding at this time were simply crushed. This moment. Seeing Suliang's figure, who was still enlightening and meditating, all the geniuses swallowed unconsciously, only feeling that that figure was beyond their reach. A sense of powerlessness arose in the hearts of all the geniuses. How can one catch up with such a monster's talent? There's no way to catch up. I have worked hard all my life, but I am afraid that I will not be able to see the dust kicked up by the other person running forward. At this moment, in everyone's mind, the image of Daizai Mo Tianxiao suddenly appeared. As a Taoist, Mo Yishan is naturally the best in the Fukang Taoist section. His talent is unparalleled and far beyond ordinary geniuses. He has also understood even those extremely difficult classics. Like, Suliang is so ordinary at this time. Suliang, is it true that the disciples of the Tao Master have talents, qualifications, and understanding that are comparable to those of the Taoist disciples? This is too scary. However, not long after being shocked, everyone suddenly reacted. Wrong. Daizai had to study those classics carefully, and it took more than a month for him to gain anything. However, Suliang entered the Tao in an instant and got started in an instant. This gap is not that big. In other words, Suliang even surpassed Daizai. The moment I came to this conclusion, all the geniuses were shocked and took 2 steps back. They no longer dared to look directly at that figure. They only had admiration and fear for Suliang in their hearts. And on Suliang's side, Suliang, who was studying the classics, was very aware of his situation. To be honest, the intellectual talent he is showing now is not what a person should have at all. And the reason why Suliang can do such incredible things is entirely because of the double increase of his overlord body and the brand on his body, which makes Suliang's qualifications reach an astonishing level. Even to the Fukang Dao sect, Suliang's qualifications and understanding felt like they were unprecedented. Then, in this way, Suliang was absorbing the nutrients from Fukang Dao sect's Kung Fu books while comprehending the realm of immortality. However, after pondering for a long time, Suliang still felt that he was still one step away from breaking through to the realm of immortality. It seems that some necessary opportunities and insights are missing. And the other side. Mo Dangxian, who was continuing to search for ways to replenish his Taoist heart in his room, suddenly became even more annoyed after hearing about Suliang's visit to the Sutra Pavilion. Damn Suliang, how could his understanding and qualifications be so terrifying? Gritting his teeth and muttering to himself, Mo Dangxian wished he had killed Suliang before. Obviously, this bastard Suliang was just an ant before. In the study, there are piles of ancient books next to Wanqing, all of which are records about the abyss. Call. He raised his head and rubbed his swollen temples. Even with Wanqing's cultivation level, he was already feeling a little tired from searching for books endlessly. And just after she turned another page, a smile appeared on Wanqing's face. She finally found the information related to the brand. Wuxiang Gorge. Looking at the location of the imprint information recorded in the classics, Wanqing frowned and thought for a moment, then stood up decisively and went to look for Suliang. Wuxiang Gorge is within the territory of the imperial dynasty, and is still some distance away from Fukang Dao sect, so we still need to set off as soon as possible. Then, after finishing everything, Suliang and Wanqing flew their swords into the sky, got up and returned. Before leaving, Wan Qing approached Suliang, but she didn't want to go back with Suliang so soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 269. As a master, she also has her own tricks. After all, if you return to the dynasty, you will be sharing the master with Qin Binjao and others. How can it be as exciting as now, having the master all to yourself? Then, pulling Suliang into a wilderness, Wan Qing covered Suliang's eyes and said softly while walking, "My dear disciple, I have prepared a surprise for you, are you looking forward to it?" Volume 1 Chapter 246 Bullying the Master, does he becomes a demon? What's the surprise? Suliang asked with some confusion. It was not that he suspected that the surprise his master had prepared for him was not enough, but that he was worried that the surprise his master had prepared for him was too exciting. Think about what master has done with you in the past few days, and then think about it, you are about to return to the dynasty with master. Suliang was very worried that something would happen between his master and him, such as the giant sword thirsty for the master's blood, the near miss, and the expert in this way. You guess. Wan Qing said rather playfully that at this moment, she no longer looked like the cold and arrogant Taoist master of the sect, but instead looked like a pretty little girl. But in fact, she did have this mentality at this time. She brought Suliang to the predetermined place, helped Suliang sit down, and Wan Qing slowly released her hand covering Suliang's eyes, making a gesture of surprise. "Good disciple, you see, this is what it means to be a teacher. Do you like the surprise I prepared for you?" After hearing this, Suliang opened his eyes and looked forward. Soon, he felt a sense of immersion. I saw. In front of Suliang, a small stone table was placed here. The table was filled with plates of snacks. Next to it was a pot of wine and 2 wine glasses. It looked harmonious and complete. Next to the stone table, and around Suliang, was a peach blossom forest that stretched for miles with no end in sight. Pink peach blossoms grow on the outstretched branches of the peach tree. They are tender and lovely. The peach blossoms fall one after another, like raindrops, giving the whole world a pink touch. The unique sweet smell of peach blossom lingers on the tip of the nose, refreshing the heart and mind, and one can't help but immerse in it. Taking a deep breath, Suliang showed a smile and turned to look at Wan Qing. "Master, how did you find this place?" After hearing this, Wan Qing smiled and said nothing. Here is the surprise she prepared for master. Whether it's the snacks on the table or the beautiful scenery around here, they were all the former master's favorite. Being in it, with the master, what lingered on the tip of her nose was the fragrance of the master. At this moment, Wan Qing unconsciously thought that she was back to the past, when she was beside the master, carefree and carefree. The days when I was devoted to my master. Sitting next to Suliang, Wan Qing said with a smile, "Come, try these snacks. These are made by my master. They are the only ones in the world." "Good." Suliang nodded, picked up a piece of snack and stuffed it into his mouth. Moment. The sweet and soft taste filled the tip of Suliang's nose, making Suliang unable to stop. At the same time, familiar yet unfamiliar scenes appeared in Suliang's mind. Once upon a time, Taoist Liu Su, who was the most popular in the world, seemed to be like this. He and a young man named Wan Qing were sitting in the peach blossom forest, admiring the beauty of the peach blossoms that he loved most, and eating his favorite food cooked by the girl. Dessert. At this time, Wan Qing suddenly spoke, bringing Suliang back to reality. "How is it? Is it delicious?" Turning his head and looking into Wan Qing's hopeful eyes with a hint of starlight, Suliang nodded, "Well, it's delicious." I like it very much. Hey hey. Wan Qing laughed a few times, and just like the young girl she once was, she suddenly leaned over, took the arm of the person she loved next to her, and leaned her little head against him, just looking at the beautiful scenery of falling peach blossoms without saying a word. Hair. For a while. In this peach blossom forest, a quiet and comfortable feeling filled the air. Enjoying this rare feeling of silence, Suliang narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling extremely calm in his heart. But right now, Wan Qing saw Suliang's eyes closed, moved forward, covered Suliang's eyes with one hand, and then kissed Suliang's lips. Moment. Lips parted, Suliang immediately looked aggrieved, pointed at Wan Qing and said, "Master, you treat your apprentice like this. What's wrong with me?" Wan Qing put her hands on her hips, looking like I'm arrogant and there's nothing you can do to me. She raised her head like a proud phoenix, as a master, what can you do if you kiss your apprentice? As my master's apprentice, you should continue to take advantage of the benefits that my master has given you, why talk so much? Seeing his master looking like he was trying to cheat, Suliang felt like he couldn't help but smile. How could my master be so cute? Sometimes, he is the majestic, cold, and arrogant Taoist master of the sect, but in front of him, he sometimes looks like a young girl. This contrast is so cute. Master, if you had been like this from the beginning instead of being so forceful, I might have fallen into it long ago. With a smile, Suliang said, as an apprentice, I really can't do anything, but master, have you ever thought that apprentices can also fight back? Ah! Wan Qing blinked in confusion, what do you mean? Wan Qing didn't answer, Suliang immediately started to counterattack the master. This sudden counterattack prevented Wan Qing from reacting at all. In an instant, she was hugged by Suliang, unable to move. What do you want to do? Wan Qing said with some guilt, looking at Suliang's face getting closer and closer, there was a hint of expectation in her heart. Well, master, he seems to be getting stronger and stronger. Thinking about what will happen next, Wan Qing feels anxious and expectant at the same time. What else can I do? Of course, it's to give master some benefits. As Suliang said, he couldn't help but press the master into his arms, with one hand pointing up and the other pointing down. Finally, pushing aside the obstructive clothes, Suliang's hands went deep into it, and soon he explored the most secret and beautiful place in the peach blossom forest. Well! Wan Qing groaned and her body stiffened slightly for a moment, but then, a strange feeling arose. Feeling the numbness on her body, Wan Qing's pretty face turned crimson, her eyes were as charming as silk, twinkling with starlight, and she stared at Suliang closely. Without saying a word, she put her little head close to Suliang's arms and let Suliang do it. 4. Then, among the pink peach blossoms, Suliang and Wan Qing leaned together, enjoying this rare quiet time. Master is mine, master will always be mine. Master loves me, she must love me. I can kill that ant in Suliang easily. How could master think so highly of a waste like him? The reason why I still want to admit him is because master must use this to motivate me. Next to Fukang Dao Sex martial arts performance ground, in a deserted place, such sounds have been echoing. And the person who said this was none other than Daozai Mo Bianxiao. At this moment, Mo Bian's eyes were red and he was in a daze, with bulging veins on his forehead and clenched fists, as if he was stunned by a demon. He was just looking forward, with a vague demonic energy rising from his body. The dignified Taoist disciple of Fukang Taoist sect was so stimulated by Suliang and Wan Qing that he was possessed by a demon. He could only say these unrealistic words and try his best to deceive himself. But Mo Tianxian's self-deception is of little use after all. There will always be some voices that remind him of reality. Just like at this moment, he was walking in the Tiandao section. However, at this time, Everyone in the Tiandao sect was spreading the news about the great achievements Su Liang had done these days and his shocking understanding. Even vaguely, someone was holding Su Liang and comparing him with Mo Dangxian. This is understandable. After all, they are both immortal cultivators, and these disciples naturally worship the strong. Although Su Liang comes from a small sect, he is after all the close disciple of their Taoist master. Rounding it off, he can be considered one of his own. But this is something that Mo Tongxiao cannot bear. Walking on the road, don't wait for the front, two inner disciples came towards you. Just listening, one of them said, "Brother, I heard that the close disciple of the Taoist who was brought in by the Taoist from outside seems to have done something big in the past 2 days. Junior brother, I just returned to the sect yesterday, so I don't know much about it yet. Senior brother, can you tell me the details?" Hey, speaking of that senior brother named Su Liang, he is really a legend. The senior brother said to his junior brother with half admiration and half excitement, "The second day after senior brother Su Liang came to our Taoist sect, it happened to be a grand gathering of our Taoist section under the instruction of the Taoist master. Senior brother Su came to the stage to challenge my Taoist sect one after another. The 10 strongest Fukang sects were all defeated in an instant. Even the strongest senior brother Ye Jiangnan can't stop senior brother Su's move, but senior brother Su is only at the 9th level of dragon transformation. This strength is really unparalleled. Moreover, after that, senior brother Su took Fukang Ling and entered the Sutra Collection Pavilion. He took several forbidden books in succession. Regardless of the elders' dissuasion, he devoted himself to enlightenment. It actually made senior brother Su realize in an instant those skills and martial arts. The junior brother took a deep breath and was shocked by what Su Liang had done. He couldn't help but yearn for it. Such a powerful senior brother, I'm afraid it would be a pity if we didn't meet him. By the time the words reached this point, the two of them had already gone far away, and Mo Bianxian couldn't hear the rest. But just this point made Mo Tianxian clench his fists and grit his teeth. Su Liang, he's just an ant, how can he do this? As he gritted his teeth, Mo Bianxian felt very dissatisfied. But at this time, 2 beautiful women came in front of them. "Sister, you saw senior brother Su defeating the proud brothers and sisters that day, and you also saw senior brother Su studying the classics. Senior brother Su is really as good as the rumors say. Is it awesome?" The senior sister nodded very naturally. "At the same level, I am the most powerful talent in Dao sect in an instant, and I can instantly understand the classics that others take a long time to understand, or even cannot understand at all. Do you think, senior brother Su is very powerful?" "In the past, senior sister, the most powerful person I have ever seen was Daizai Mo Bianxian, senior fellow apprentice Mo, but now compared with senior fellow apprentice Su, even senior fellow apprentice Mo has eclipsed him and cannot be compared to him at all. Moreover, senior brother Su has a handsome appearance, a gentle temperament, and such talent and strength. He is really a good match." After saying these words, the junior sister next to her almost had stars in her eyes. "Just kidding, I can't beat him. He's just an ant. I can't kill him easily. How could he be stronger than me?" Gritting his teeth and continuing to move forward, Mo Tianxian heard a lot of people talking about these things along the way. Many people were comparing him with Su Liang. Su Liang can challenge 10 to 1, and he can reach the same level as a genius in an instant, so don't wait. Su Liang can have an epiphany and comprehend the most difficult classics in an instant, so don't wait. This comparison one by one, in the end, actually gave Mo Tongxian an indescribable sense of frustration. Could it be that I am really nothing compared to that Su Liang? You stole my master and you want to be better than me in everything, Su Liang, I wish you could die now. Mo Dongxian wailed in his heart and returned to his room dejectedly, looking miserable. Starting from Fukang Daozong, the two of them flew with the same flying sword. Although they did not rush too anxiously, they did not go through too many pauses. So, soon, Suliang and Wanqing rushed back. Summer. In Shengjing, Suliang and Qin Binjiao's mansion. Since the two left, all the girls have gathered here. Qin Wanyu didn't even go back to the palace. Ying Keoj only went to court every day. After hurriedly handling political affairs, he hurried here and stayed here. No matter who they were, they couldn't help but worry about Suliang. They all wanted to know the news of Suliang's return as soon as possible. And this day, the girls once again gathered in the inner courtyard as usual, talking to each other about how to treat Suliang. And just then, on the horizon in the distance, two more figures suddenly appeared. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 270. The two figures had no intention of concealing their aura. The moment they appeared, the powerful pressure that made ordinary people almost unable to breathe enveloped the mansion. But when the women in the mansion felt these two auras, instead of feeling any nervousness, they all showed a smile of relief. My man is back. Finally. Two figures were carried to the ground by the sword light, revealing the figures of two of them, but they were Suliang and Wanqing. See this. Ah! Qin Binjiao immediately jumped up, screaming, with an excited smile on her pretty face, and a little tears in the corners of her eyes. She immediately rushed towards Suliang and threw herself directly into Suliang's arms. Suliang, Suliang, you are finally back, Yao misses you so much. Holding her husband tightly, Qin Binjiao buried her little head in her husband's arms, rubbing and coquettishly, feeling the familiar and stable breath that she had not felt for a long time. Qin Binjiao's eyes couldn't help but Zhu blushed slightly. Well, Suliang, Yao, isn't this a dream? Are you really back? Silly girl. Suliang shook his head and laughed, touched his girlfriend's little head, let his girlfriend act coquettishly, and wiped her tears on him, sighing slightly in his heart. This silly girl must have been worried about herself these days when she was away, right? Call. After letting out a sigh of relief, Qin Binjiao jumped up and wrapped her legs around her man, not wanting to get down again. Volume 1 Chapter 247, The main palace is confident and sets off to the Wuxiang Gorge. If Tan Qinja or anyone else wants to do this, they may have to worry about what others think, but Qin Binjiao is really familiar with the task of monopolizing her own man, and there is no pressure at all. Just kidding, you are the royal palace, okay. If you want to occupy your own man, who dares to speak? My husband finally came back safely. I want to get close to my husband. What's wrong? What's wrong? This wave is called the confidence coming from the main palace. Suliang hugged his girlfriend and walked to the other three people. Suliang patted the small and soft body behind his girlfriend and said softly, Okay, Binjiao, let's get down quickly, there are others watching. Well. Qin Binjiao groaned. Although she didn't want to leave the warm embrace of her boyfriend, she had no choice but to do it. She also knew that she couldn't dominate her man all the time and had to leave some space for her master and the others. Otherwise, even if he is the main palace, his master, Sister Ying, and the Queen Mother will definitely not look good on him. Then, Qin Binjiao had no choice but to loosen her legs and fall on the ground, but she still stood beside her man, her eyes unwilling to leave her man for a moment. See this. Tan Qinja and others finally got the chance to come forward. Tan Qinja was the first to step forward, caressing Suliang's cheeks with both hands, and after a moment, she hugged Suliang directly. A pair of proud peaks squeezed Suliang's body tightly, and even rubbed it a little. Snored. Tan Qinja hummed softly, leaned into Suliang's ear, and said softly, I want you to scare sister. Come back this time and see if sister will give you something to eat. Sister, I know I was wrong. Suliang laughed twice and hugged his sister. Well. Tan Kinja sighed, almost melting into Suliang's arms, unable to utter a single word of rebuke. My little brother is really troublesome, but where can he go wrong? The Queen of the Abyss was too powerful, and only my aunt could compete with it. On that day, even she couldn't move, let alone a Liang. Compared to himself, a Liang could still stand well when facing the Queen of the Abyss, which was already pretty good. That's all, my sister doesn't mean to blame you. Tan Kinja said, suddenly spitting out her sweet tongue, and gently circled Suliang's ear. Don't lock the door to your room tonight, my sister will go find you. Say it. Tan Kinja let go of Suliang and took a step back. As the second person to start harmonizing yin and yang with her own man, Tan Kinja understands very well what it means to leave opportunities for those who come after her. It's not a question of whether she wants it or not, it's a matter of necessity. After all, who made his men provoke two more people? It was his disciple who was the main palace who instigated them. Who can do anything about this? Seeing Tan Kinja retreat, Yang Kaoj immediately stepped forward and hugged Suliang tightly. Then, he stood on tiptoes and pressed his red lips. Moment. Suliang's perception was filled with the softness of the proud peak, the soft and waxy red lips, and the soft and sweet feeling of the tongue. After a long time, their lips parted. Yang Kaoj didn't bother to erase the transparent thread connecting their lips. He just looked at Suliang infatuatedly. After a moment, he smiled with an extremely soft smile. Lang Jun, fortunately, you are back. If it were not for you, what would be the point of me, the emperor, doing this? I might as well go with you. As soon as he finished speaking, before Suliang could say anything, Qin Wanyu suddenly stepped forward, pulled Yang Kaoj away, and said with some dissatisfaction, "Oh, you girl, what are you saying to be depressing? Do you think that if my husband is gone, which of our sisters would still have the heart to live alone in this world? However, I believe in my husband very much. No matter what kind of danger I encounter, my husband will definitely turn the danger into good luck. Otherwise, we sisters will definitely stay with our husband forever and never be separated. Say it." Qin Wanyu hugged Suliang's head and actually pressed Suliang's head directly on top of her proud peak. Moment. Suliang was overwhelmed by the soft, elastic, yet faint milky scent of the extraordinary scale, and almost stopped breathing. After a while, Qin Wanyu just let go of Suliang, lifted Suliang's chin with her fingers, and kissed her, but it was a touch. Okay, my worries and thoughts these days have paid off in interest. Qin Wanyu licked her red lips with her sweet tongue, and an extremely charming smile bloomed on her face. I still need my husband to repay the rest as soon as possible. Husband, tonight, the door of the house will not be locked. If someone pushes the door in, he may find a pair of stunning mother and daughter waiting for him. After hearing this, Suliang immediately thought of the scene where Qin Wanyu and Yang Kaoj were together. I don't get to do this kind of trick much, but it's so exciting, isn't it? After finishing what she wanted to do, Qin Wanyu also retreated and stood with Yang Kaoj. Silently walking back to his master, Suliang looked at the women surrounding him and sighed slightly. It feels quite refreshing when yin and yang are harmonious, but with so many people together, it's really a bit overwhelming. As soon as I finished dealing with one, another one came, and the fragrance on my body was a bit strong. It's really difficult. Thinking in his mind, Suliang laughed. After saying hello to Suliang and expressing their longing for each other, Wan Qing took the girls back to the room. As soon as she sat down, Tan Kinja couldn't wait to ask, "Auntie, do you have anything to do about Liang's situation?" Hearing this, Wan Qing shook her head, but then nodded. Moment. Her attitude of shaking her head and nodding made everyone feel a little confused. Is this found or not found? Oops, please just say it. Stop talking about the Riddler, This is a matter of life and death, and there is no room for nonsense. The girls couldn't help but look at Wan Qing, all of them anxious. Fortunately, Wan Qing had no intention of showing off, and said straightforwardly, after returning to Fukang Daozong, I took him to the Fuling formation in Daozong to try to erase the brand. Although it failed, but the time was delayed to 3 years. After hearing this, all the girls breathed a sigh of relief. As long as we have these 3 years of delay, Fukang Dao sect will not be gone in vain this time. The previous 3 years were too short, and there was no time for them to find a solution, but in 3 years, they already had a lot of room for maneuver. Immediately afterwards, Wan Qing said, after that, I read all the books in the Dao sect, but I found a place related to the brand message. Where? All the girls asked in unison. Daxia, Wuxiang Gorge. Wan Qing looked determined, although we are not sure whether the mark on him can really be erased there, this is the only clue we have after all, so I plan to take him to Wuxiang Gorge to investigate. What do you think? After hearing this, all the girls said without any hesitation, let's go together. Even Ying Kaoch, the Empress of Great Xia, had a firm attitude. Having decided to go to Wuxiang Gorge to find someone who could help Suliang erase the brand, Qin Binjao and others dispersed, packed up their belongings, and prepared to set off as soon as possible. You can have sex with your man anytime. They all know that the top priority is to find a way to get their men back to normal. They have been stuck with their man for 3 years, and they have been stuck with their man for a lifetime. They still know which one is more important. And just when Qin Wanyu returned to her bedroom, a shadow suddenly rose in her room. It was Dong Jun. I've met Dong Jun. Qin Wanyu immediately put down what she was doing, and while saluting Dong Jun, she guessed what Dong Jun wanted to do now that he was looking for her. But it must not be a troublesome matter. To be fair, in Qin Wanyu's opinion, it is more important to go to Wuxiang Gorge to find something that can cure his man. Dong Jun and so on, go away. And just when she kept guessing, Dong Jun suddenly said, in Daxia, there is a place called Wuxiang Gorge. There is a divine object in it, which is very important to us. I want you to go to Wuxiang Gorge and get it, that divine thing. Hearing this, Qin Wanyu was startled, blinked, and was confused for a moment before respectfully saying, yes. Could that so-called divine object be the treasure that can erase the mark on the king? While perfunctorily agreeing with Dong Jun, Qin Wanyu was thinking seriously. At this time, Dong Jun said, I will give you the road to that divine object and the methods to crack some of its mechanisms. You must succeed in this trip. Don't worry, Mr. Dong. I politely promised to bring that sacred object back. There is a saying that I really want to bring it back, but it is hard to say whether I want my husband to bring it back or whether I want to bring it back myself. Dong Jun's figure disappeared. Qin Wanyu looked at the records in her hand about the road between Wuxiang Gorge, the layout of the agencies and the corresponding cracking methods, and nodded with satisfaction. Regardless of whether the divine object is what the king wants, in short, this thing is very helpful to him. Tisk, I really need to thank Dong Jun properly. After cleaning up and waiting, everyone gathered in the mansion of Suliang and Qin Binjao. Immediately, there was another burst of flying swords, and soon, everyone arrived outside the Wuxiang Gorge in Daxia. This is. Looking at the huge canyon ahead, Suliang took a breath of air, a little shocked and helpless. How are we going to get in? I saw. In the huge canyon named Wuxiang Gorge, thunder pierced the sky one after another, crashing to the ground from time to time, causing waves of gravel to roll, and mountain fires roaring. It looked extremely dangerous. The entire canyon was filled with the aura of thunder and lightning, permeating the place. Just getting close to it made people feel a numbing feeling, making them feel uncomfortable all over.